so deeply to the ocean, the boat I'm moving on, to you, to Hawaii, and it's guiding me in a way that I could have never guided myself. And that's what I'm so grateful for. And that connection that goes beyond my mind. I just want to welcome you, Meg, to the Evolve Us videocast, which is all about bringing us back home to our hearts, in whatever that means. And these conversations are designed for really both of us to just explore together and evolve in the conversation. And to give anyone that watches this a context, so I didn't realize this before this moment, but Meg and I have actually met twice before in a restaurant a couple of months ago and in a drum circle. And I had the name Phoenix at that time. So even for her, she was kind of like, oh, do I know this guy? But then I had a different name. So we're here today because through a social media connection, I just came across her profile and saw the incredible just passion and connection that she has and what she's up to around the environment, nature, activism, and transformational work, spiritual evolution and growth. And having been really personally connected to that myself, I really just see this gap that's needed in human consciousness to bring nature and the environment, but the personal evolution together, because I see that people connected to the environment are really passionate about it, but sometimes haven't got that spiritual human understanding to be able to reach those people. And people that are all about their self and personal growth themselves, but don't have that strong connection to nature, there's still a link missing. So welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful to be here with you. And it's beautiful to even our conversation before, the interwoven link and how nature has guided us to here. And you said before, because we briefly spoke about whales, which is something that's been so prevalent in my path, and what they have, the doors they've opened up for me is beyond comprehension. And it just shows how we're all connected to everything. Like the creation and source that exists within the butterflies and the bees and the whales and the sharks and the trees is what exists within me, exists within me and exists within you and exists within anybody that listens and watches this. And we're in a world that's very deeply separate, and it's been intentionally cultivated like that for thousands of years. And it's slowly, as the earth wakes up to itself, we're slowly waking up alongside it. And we're realizing slowly, without words, without comprehension, just that innate part of us, how deeply connected we are to the planet and how deeply we're connected to everything that exists, because it is us. It's the mirror reflection. And like you said, there's the spiritual path and earth path and nature path, but they're exactly the same. And it's as deep as you can meet somebody else is as deep as you have met yourself. So a lot of people aren't willing to see themselves in other aspects because there may be something that is mirroring within them that they haven't looked at within themselves. So it is the path of connecting back to yourself, is connecting back to everything, which is the foundation of my work. It's we have to meet ourselves and come home to ourselves and let go of everything that we're not, to be able to, it's not even adding anything. It's just remembering that which we already are. It's as simple as knowing that everything you could ever need is already within you. You don't need anything else. And everything that we could ever need is constantly provided to us by planet Earth, the water, the resources. But there is a gap of realizing how intensely and important it is right now to protect her and protect resources. And also knowing that you can only truly do that by coming home to yourself. So it's you can't control anything outside of you. You can only control your connection and embodiment to yourself.
When you said to protect nature is you have to come home to yourself. And, the question I want to ask you is was there a time that you weren't connected to nature? Was there a time that you didn't have that perspective? You didn't have that scene? And what is it that actually what drew you in? Like, was it an intentional choice? Was it nature itself? Was it an experience you had with an animal? Like, what has that been for you, that journey? Because there are some people, and I can speak for myself in the past, I just was in, schools and buildings, and there was nature. I would go for walks and things, but I just was someone going through nature. I could hear the birds, but I wasn't connected. And so I'm curious what that journey's been for you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. There's two ways to answer that. Yes and no. I've always been connected to marine life. When I was 3 years old, I begged my mum every day to change my name to Dolphy because I believed I was a dolphin. And on Christmas, like, I didn't understand what captivity was at that point. So it was very innocent, but I just, for Christmas, really wanted a dolphin. And I woke up at like 5 a.m. and ran to the bathtub, and there was no dolphin in there. And I just bawled my eyes out. And it's always been like intricately connected. All over my walls were dolphins and whales. I shared a bedroom with my sister at the time, and she had orcas and I had like dolphins and humpback whales. And it was just like deeply connected in that sense. Composting and growing up in a lifestyle by the ocean, and in the country, yet I wasn't connected to myself all through my life. So that's been about 6 years of this path and journey of coming back to myself. So the perspective I have now of understanding that we are nature, that that the greatest thing you can ever do to change the world is to connect back to yourself and come back to yourself. That perspective I didn't have then. I was very much looking outside, and I wasn't connected to myself, and I didn't know my power. I was very much in circles of conservation, like Sea Shepherd and I4 and a lot of other organizations, but I never believed I was worthy enough of being an environmentalist or being an activist or a conservationist. So I was supporting all these other people, but there was still this part of me that did not believe in my own power. And now, through doing this path, which was ultimately in order to do the work that I wanted to do in the world and activate my mission and purpose, was like, well, I have to become that person. Like, what I can see when I shut my eyes and vision, she's fucking powerful. And I don't feel powerful. I don't feel like this person that I can see in the future. So there's a gap between that. And I just got taken onto this really beautiful path of personal development and spirituality and plant medicine and a lot of different tools there. But I was mostly doing that so I could help the earth. And then kind of woke up one day, I think it was after the plant medicine journey. I'm like, holy, like, we really are all part of the same source and creator and consciousness. And you can say those words, and then you can truly feel that in every single cell of your being, of like deep understanding and awareness of what that means. And then I fell in love in a whole deeper way, because I saw myself in everything else. And the connection I have to whales and whale song is they are the driving force of my life and where I am right now. We wouldn't be in this conversation if it wasn't for whales. It's like, it's beautiful how interconnected we all are. And there is so much to be curious about within that. There is so much magic within that. There is so much mystery within this world that constantly, like, even if you start to break down the seasons of autumn, spring, winter, and summer, and the death process and the rebirth process, and like just what nature is it's perfect, and we are a product of nature. So we are ultimately perfect as well, and everything is perfect. It's just coming back more into what our ancestors and culture and indigenous did.
And I want to speak to that, which is just share a little bit of my journey with you around that, because it's so beautiful to hear. You know, you've been connected from a young age, and you felt that. Yet it was the connection to self. Whereas for me, it was like I was disconnected from self and nature until I really went through I had chronic illness for 7 years, and then I got forced to face myself. So it was my body, which is nature, that woke me up. And when I went through my own empowerment journey through that, I was like, what the heck? Like, I'm poisoning myself with the things I'm eating, and what are we doing to the earth? And oh my God, I'm changing my nutrition. Oh, this is happening and I got to take a pet. And I like, that's when everything switched. And I was this commerce kid, right? Brought up as a condition. So I had this whole understanding of the capitalist world and the system, and I was working business. And then it was like my whole reality was like tipped upside down. I was like just anyone that starts to use their logical mind goes, wow, we're making ourselves sick and we're treating the symptoms, but not the cause. And every system we've designed, from medicine through to business, through to like every industry, is just a breakdown of what is the meaning of life. Because I studied academic research in uni, and I did it from a business, and there was kind of psychology already starting to creep in, but I didn't know at the time. And I was like, it pierced that veil. And the deeper I went, the psychology, the plant medicine, the sexuality, the emotional intelligence, it was very much from a personal lens. Like it was about me discovering myself and empowering myself. And nature just started to creep in small ways. But I was still, in the building, doing the personal development courses, no nature around. But you would hear me back then go, oh, this feels stale in here. Why aren't we out in nature? But I didn't have that connection. And I remember it's like it almost becomes a natural part. If I start eating good food, if I start connecting my nervous system, my heart, my brain, it is inevitable for nature to start to harmonize to me. And what happened is I get drawn to that documentary. I start to have an experience where my nervous system, through meditation, different things, I'm starting to have experiences with the ocean and the moon where I feel something different from I was just living in my head and the rat race, or even the subconscious thinking, the reprogramming, still in here, still in the mind. That then I'm starting to have what I would call peak experiences. And then I went to this environment festival, New Kind in Tasmania, right? And I'm starting to hear others talk about the world. They're talking about education standpoint, political standpoint, but I was like not drawn to the talks. I'm like drawn to sit with this Indigenous man under a tree, and I was teaching him to meditate. I was amazed. Like, he doesn't know how to meditate. Like I had these preconceived ideas of what nature, what Indigenous, right? And then there's these moments where I'm teaching him to meditate, the spider keeps calling at me. And I had a fear of spiders my whole childhood. But from these moments, I did a camp facilitating out in the bush with young Indigenous, and all these spiders came through, and like all the animals, that I started to connect to what you were referring to. They're like magical experiences that, I wasn't still fully aware of it at the time, but nature started, maybe it was always talking to me, but I started to take notice. I had quietened this enough and connected to my body enough that I could feel and see, like a plant medicine journey, it's piercing the veil of how the whole construct had conditioned me to think through, money and efficiency and, fear of rejection, like every connection. That when I spent 5 months on a permaculture farm, that was when I really had a shamanic initiation, because every morning and day, sunrise, sunset, there's a sunflower, and I see the ladybugs eating the aphids and the golden orb spiders and the bees, really the harmony, the magic of it all, how it all works beautifully. And I remember this Indigenous woman saying to me, asking me, "You've been connecting more with nature, and I go, "Yeah." And she just goes, it's like she could see something I couldn't yet. She goes, "You're becoming more and more emotional, aren't you?" And I go, "Yeah, I am." And she goes, "Yeah." And she said something that I'll never forget. It was like, "Yeah, you have the spirit of the old ones." Wow. And, this is when I was starting to go into this idea that I was starting to see past lives and experience past different kind of experiences that are out as well. And it just connected me to just beyond my logical mind to a mystery that you refer to. A mystery that when my friend was sharing about the whales, my whole body violently was shaking and purging without doing anything, that brought me to the ocean, that made my mind and my heart so dedicated that no matter what was going to happen, I was going to make that happen. I'm going to move things out of my life. I'm going to make that happen. To a boat, right? with the dear brother of our Sage, and then to somehow meet you online and then hear that you had been on the same boat with him months earlier. And then when I share with you, I'm getting this call to Hawaii, for you to go, oh yeah, like I'm planning to go around the same time and it's about the whales. Like that kind of connection in nature goes beyond words and goes beyond, like it has to be experienced to be understood. And what I heard you say was it has to be experienced through the self. Like it's a much to be connected to nature and feel the pain of what's happening in the world and connect with an animal, but, you know, and become an activist in this. But I've seen there's this part missing where in activism, unless there's the spiritual journey, I just see so much pain and resistance and fighting and missing, because we haven't done the awareness to be able to see all the perspectives. It's too much in my experience, my ego, my pain, that not being able to communicate and pierce through different parties and people who hold completely different beliefs, experience, like they just don't know. They really don't. And then the same with the spiritual journey. I see people that are like all about me, and I'm building my kingdom, and I'm into my energy, and I'm transmitting 5D dimensional energies through, but like, unless they've spent the time with the earth. And for me, it took 5 months with, like, it doesn't just take connecting by day. It was like, I need to let everything go and be there for 5 months to really understand. Like, I couldn't even explain to you what I picked up from the embodiment, but all I knew is I was scared of nature. Like, I was scared of spiders. I'm scared to get dirt on myself. Like that's, you know, like that's the conditioning. That's the city slicker in me. And now I can't live in walls anymore. I need to be like out there.
Well, speaking into that, the fact that you were scared of spiders and you were scared of nature, it's like the whole planet is based off of duality and polarity and opposites. And to experience one thing, you have to experience the other. So a lot of people say, when you say they're on their spiritual path or they're earth focused, and there's that gap, it's like sometimes everybody is exactly where they need to be able to reach where they're evolving into. And without the understanding of the other side, you can't truly know it. You can't truly experience nature or anything that brings a depth of love, or it brings a depth of connection to something greater than you, if you don't know the other side. Like, you don't truly know happiness and freedom if you don't know complete, like, inner chains and inner turmoil and depression. And they're like, it's like the beauty of both. But within connecting into nature, it's like what you described as some of the most profound and like really beautiful experiences that I don't want to say not everybody will experience, because I really hope that everybody gets to experience their own version of that. And I have my own in my own unique ways. And it's the most beautiful relationship, besides the relationship you develop with yourself and your children. It's like this incredible natural world is like something that we can just choose. Yet we're also very blessed to be living in Australia, where we've got a bountiful of nature. And I did talks with people in Czech Republic at some schools, and these people have never seen the ocean. They've never smelt it. They've never stepped on it. They don't believe, they've got a belief in their minds and their consciousness that they will never, ever, ever experience this. So it is so far out of mind and out of sight that they eat freshwater fish. Like, even seafood isn't too much a part of their life because they can't access it, and it's a very poor country. And so I was doing my best to explain it, like what it feels like all the aspects, and then also believing in their mindset that they can access that. They can create a reality because of this infinite world reality, but it's like our own limitations. And even though some people may listen to this and be like, oh, that is the only way to experience nature, is these huge, profound experiences. It's like, no, it's as simple as just no longer resisting yourself, resisting your life, swimming upstream. It's just letting go and just activating your 5 senses, going on a walk and being like, all right, fuck doing the thoughts and the things and what I have to do and the checklist and listening to music. It's like, take your headphones out, stop, touch the leaves, feel the leaves between your finger, smell them. I sometimes smell leaves and like, it's got no scent, but like you never know unless you try. Smell the flowers, listen to as many different sounds as you can, feel the wind against your air. And it's like in any moment you can connect. And it's like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be an environmentalist, you don't have to be a conservationist, you don't have to be any of these things. It's like, just be where you are and realize that you are everything. And you don't have to understand that to a certain depth, but just starting to activate different levels of awareness and curiosity of your natural world and learning about new things. And also you don't have to connect to it as well. Like there is so many gifts that, like, if anyone's listening to this far, then I'm sure they've got some form of interest within it all. But it's like, you also don't have to be interested in it to this depth, but be interested in other things. There is an infinite amount of things in life. And if what the whale is also within artistry and within poetry and within anything creative, it's like you can meet nature and you can meet this infinite mystery of life within anything. Even in this glass, like from the beginning to the end of this creation, there is so much that happened. Like water, like there's just so much to be grateful for in life. And developing more curiosity and connecting to that curiosity that we had as a child, which is always within us, it just enlivens your life and connects you back to your heart, which is the core of this whole project and that you have here. And realizing that you can meet it within everything. When you cook your dinner and you're utilizing vegetables, it's like starting to think from the seed to this creation that I'm about to eat. The earth cultivated this, the amount of water that went into this, the sun, the cultivation of the person that dedicated their life as a farmer to be able to bring it to you. Hopefully the lack of pesticides that is sprayed onto this, or the lack of genetically modified, because you're trying to buy as local as possible. But all of these aspects, it's just, you can see nature within everything. Right now there's a bird that's living its own little reality up there, talking to whatever other bird up on the tree. Who knows what they're saying, but they're communicating within their own language. So it's like
and that, when you know, so I've worked with a lot of people and as a coach and a mentor, and to get them towards living their most fulfilled life and life they dream, right? Like where they are today and what's their dream life. And I'd run this exercise with them to just get really clear on that through the senses. And I swear everyone comes up with something that is 5 degrees of separation from the other. And these are people that come from all walks of life, all ages. And what they come to is the sense of a vision that's like slow and easeful in nature, with people they love, creating art, doing work that inspires their heart. That nature, it's like a really, like in the sensory experience of it, there's this real sense of like it brings some kind of safety and connection. Like they always say, I hear the birds and I can smell the soul. They always want to be near the ocean. They always want to be also close to forest. And that is just coming from their pure being. Like I think if I truly sat down with any person, really got them connected to their heart, no matter what, it may be just slightly varied, but it's that. And what I love about what you said before is, if every human on this planet was living their true nature, their true essence, it would be very simple. It'd be very connected to nature, other people, right? But what you said before is it's that mindset is so many people are not living that because of the beliefs, the conditioning. It's not possible. I need to do this to make the money. I need to, my parents said this and that's too unstable, or whatever it is, right? Whatever they've got going on. That it's like people are stuck in this, the Matrix, the perfect movie, right? For it. And then there's their true nature and desire. And it's like this, in this precipice here of, the world or the earth You know, I kind of see it as the karmic thing, all the forces, the earthquakes, the tsunamis, the animal, we're all in this, you know, symbiotic relationship. Everything's talking and listening, right? And, you know, what has really come through strongly for me recently is that my ascension journey, my evolution as a soul, my spiritual journey is that, but it is actually being guided, not by the human teacher, not even by what I think are my ego's desires, but is purely led by Mother Nature. Whatever she wants or she's driving, I have undone enough matrix conditioning to simply just listen and know that I don't do the shadow work. I don't control myself, others, feelings, things. I'm just purely here to surrender each moment to what is being asked of me, where I'm needing to be taken, whatever's happening, right? That it is this symphony, this song line, this dance geographically around the world with other humans, right? That becomes this beautiful thing. And, you know, the pain in me as well as my passion is seeing and feeling other humans who have this dream, who have their true nature, and that are not doing that. And I've also come to accept what you said before around, I don't control others' journeys. I don't control their soul path. Their soul has determined whatever it's determined to evolve in this evolution. But it's like, in knowing that, like my heart and soul, when I really tune, there is nothing that will stop me from following my joy, following that curiosity, being in my childlike innocence, and just like relentlessly being here in this life to inspire others to live through their heart.
And in through doing that, being that mirror through like when you were doing this, I was just like, there is no way to explain what is within your hands here. Like, this is the mystery of everything. But that's the kind of foundational thing that everybody needs to know, is that their own evolution and their own connecting back to themselves is the greatest gift they can offer the world. Because by you, like you said, what you're explaining and doing that, if you speak to the right person by coincidence at a cafe, and you say exactly what you needed to say to them, or you're the example of your own embodiment and your own truth, without them even saying anything, there's something that could have happened within their own psyche that just did this massive transformation or shift. So it's like, by being yourself, and everywhere you go, your own unique essence and truth that nobody else can access. The channel, I guess, what you are to everything in the world, nobody else can access that channel but you, because you are designed as infinitely perfect as yourself, and creator would never create two of itself, because it's here to experience itself. So if you are the embodiment and you connect back to your own self, and you just live life with no expectations and no like agendas or anything, but you just be and just keep showing up to that which feels right, that's when this mystery that was within your hands here just continues to unfold and play, and we get to be the change we wish to see in the world. But like underlying of be that change. There is so much within it. That's such an overused but perfectly overused statement. But understand or think about that. What does it mean to be the change? Like, be it, and everything can unfold from there.
I love that, because two bits. For whatever reason, I'm using a new word other than trigger. People have been very activated by me on my journey.
What's that?
Because I've danced between so many worlds, that when there's a new bit integrated, you know, it's like this person's activated by, the corporate's activated when you say this, the not-for-profit's activated when you bring out the shadow of the not-for-profit, they're activated by the sexuality work, they're activated by the environment, you know, and it's just like, and so this thing I see is even if all these people on the evolution journey, personal development, is it's showing me what you mentioned before around the duality, the polarity, and really coming to accept that every soul is living the path that it's meant to be living. And that as you kind of say before, it's like, I gotta not tune out of all the, you know, my fear of rejection and this and this, and just constantly come back to love and unconditional love, and really check myself as well, but to come back to trust and self, that this all the guidance, the things that come through my transmissions, that, you know, to trust that it's for some higher purpose that goes beyond my need for belonging, my need to just, oh, come on, just love me, people, you know, whatever that is, right? And that they're not to judge others on their path, even if their path is contradictory, even if it feels like, oh, fuck, I'm so right about this. This is my belief, that they are in some polarity, in some experience, in some simulation, in something, that there is some harmony. And even though things do not feel like they're in harmony, things feel like they're out of balance, and think, right, you can go into it, is that the earth, the universe, something greater, whatever you want to kind of put to it, is working through us at a timeline in a way that there are people like you and I, you know, that are here to empower others and help support others in that, or whatever it may be, right? But it's like not to control the people that are not on that journey, not to be angry at them.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And letting everybody live their own path as well. And realizing that we are all supposed to just experience what we're here to experience, but we can learn from one another. When you, like, I love how you reframe triggered to activated. But it's like that which activates you is something, a part of you that you haven't explored within yourself, or a part. And it's like, whenever there's an activation, there's a sign for you to look within and explore that within yourself. So if we become a world where we're more self-responsible and less reactive and less separative of others in every single way, it's like catching that and being like, okay, well, what is about this person that is calling for me to explore my own inner nature, my own inner self, to be able to evolve or grow. Or you also don't have to, but it's like, I love that you continue to keep going. And when you said so many different areas were getting activated, it's like, fuck yes, because in order to create change and to create growth and to create newness, we have to keep breaking the identity bubbles and the identity masks, and like how one way is supposed to be, when it's like, it is all interconnected in a massive way also. So when you said that, I was like, awesome. I love that you were that for everybody.
Sometimes I don't love it, but yeah.
It sucks, but like, why you don't take anything personally and everything, like nothing means anything.
And I want to ask you a question that kind of maybe starts to really get into the shadows of the environmental movement in that way, which is, you know, something I've really noticed is people that have that connection to the environment and nature and animals and a specific cause. There's so much passion, so much belief, so much experience to that sometimes I've seen this. It's like, I'm going to protect the animals. I'm going to protect, you know, whatever it is, whether it's veganism or something. But I see this like hatred or this anger towards other humans. And there's a part in me that goes, hang on a minute, but that human is, like, that animal is valid and real, but so is that human.
Absolutely.
And so I would love to hear your take on just the inner workings of that, you know, the spiritual workings of that, the environmental workings of that, the integration of all the pieces in that conversation for how do all humans, right, and all the living beings, all the things really come to a place of balance and harmony in that.
I love that question.
It's a big question.
It's the best question. Yeah. Within everything, there's separation. Within everything, there's ego. Within everything, there's I'm right, you're wrong. And I see, and it's like you can see that within every single industry, within every single organization, and I see it hugely in the environmental scene. And there's there's a collective belief that I hear a lot of: humans are the cancer of the earth, and humans are the disease of the earth, and let's just get rid of all humans. I actually saw this once, of someone said, if they could have one wish come true, it was get rid of all the humans and then just have then nature and the earth will thrive. And like, that was just like, that is such an ineffective perception and belief. But then I'm like, well, of course I feel that, because I've seen and have experienced how infinite and powerful we are as human beings. And it's not our fault that we're so deeply disconnected from the planet, but especially from ourselves, because without going into it too much. And I love that you mentioned before that you've explored sexuality. It's like sexuality and like our power and our connection to ourselves is, it makes us so powerful that we can think for ourselves, and we are no longer controllable, and we no longer need a lot of things. We're not materialistic when we're deeply connected to our own true nature. We need freedom, peace, happiness, the simplistic values, kind of like we did in our ancient cultures and our indigenous cultures. So coming back to what you just asked, it's ultimately understanding that there is separation within everything. Hang on, I just had a complete mind blank. That's so funny. Hang on, I'll be back. I'll get back. When you were asking that question, I thought of myself in year 8 when I was in a Japanese, I was learning Japanese, and I've always been so deeply connected to the whales that I refused to learn Japanese or pay attention because I so deeply disrespected them. And I kept saying, I'm never going to go to Japan because I hate what they're doing to the whales. And this was such a story that I told myself so intensely and so deeply that I generalized and put the blame and the hurt of what was happening to the whales, of this mass slaughtering that was happening, on Japan as a whole. But if you understand the culture, and as I explored cultures later on, I went on to realize that Japanese people are some of the most beautiful, purest hearted. It's such a gorgeous culture. And the acts of a very few minority of people, regardless of their race, does not generalize and completely pit that whole country into a box. So I eventually broke that belief. But if you take that, it's like the actions that we don't like of a few, of doing, so whatever's happening to the animals, whatever's happening to the coal, plastic, it comes back to a very small amount of people that are doing this in terms of deciding that and leading the way with that. So it's breaking separation within all things. So of course, the environmental and every single area is going to have their us versus them. It's coming back ultimately to the core issue and coming back to the heart, coming back to love, coming back to the core of where it's happening and getting the problem there rather than on the surface level, which is what is happening with a lot of things. And you mentioned it before, but it's like a lot of people are tackling issues on the surface level and just like coming at it with fear and coming at it with anger and coming at it from the wrong frequency, when everything ultimately is frequency. But if we come back at from compassion and come back to it from values and come back to it from love and integrity and respect and compassion and all of these things that have been taught to us for thousands and thousands by like the top spiritual leaders, our especially our Australian culture, like how deeply they were connected with the land. And it's like, if we bring back these innate values within ourselves, all of that shit dissolves and we just see the problem for what it is, but then also have compassion. So I have compassion for the 8-year-old me that so deeply loved whales that she didn't understand why that was happening in Japan, and then just pit that. So it's like, instead of being like, you're wrong for thinking that, it's like, actually, no, you just want the whales to be safe because you love them and you see that they're beauty. But it's like, it just shows how ultimately it all does come back to the heart. It all does come back to love and comes back to seeing ourselves in others and then finding compassion for everything within it all. But it very much exists in the environmental space, and it exists within the spiritual space. It exists within the business and the Wall Street and all of that. But it's like seeing the humanity and the humanness in each other, seeing ourselves in each other, and knowing that if you were in their shoes, you would do the exact same thing as well. And ultimately believing that everybody's doing the best they can with where they're at. And a lot of people don't have the tools to move through their traumas and move through their stagnant beliefs, or even understanding that at some point this was conditioned and infiltrated into their mindset, where all of their actions are being fed from. And it's like, you can't expect somebody to know what they don't know. So ultimately, all of that comes back to values.
And yeah, like I love everything you said there, and it kind of comes back to what I shared before, and even I remember around all the humans when they tap into their true nature, I'm like the values are not very far apart. And I remember even Nicole Gibson doing this whole journey around Australia. I can't remember how many people she connected with, something like 50,000. I just remember one thing she said was people had shared values. It was just how we get there, you know? And it's this idea of, you know, as an example, the people who are working in a mine or doing all this thing, if you speak to them, they're trying to make a living for their family. They're trying to, you know, do what they think is right. And it's like everyone's just trying to do what they feel is right, based on where they are. And what I'm just hearing through you is you've developed, you've evolved, you've done work to really come to a place of self-responsibility for your reality and your beliefs and your experiences and your perceptions and your projections. And there's this beautiful integration of, I feel like, compassion, heart, which is when you notice, you know, that there's that, you know, younger version of you. And I actually want to read you something that I just wrote 3 days ago. Um, it starts with the power of the heart.
Beautiful.
You know, and the physical body starts off as a cell. You begin to multiply to become a 4-cell, then 8-cell organism, then toroidal field before your first organ forms, the heart. In the past, the science has simply treated the heart as a pump. The heart is so much more. Your heart has its own nervous system and hormone gland that affects the brain and body function. It releases oxytocin, the love and connection hormone. It sends messages and information to the brain and plays a key role in accessing one's intuition. Our heart health determines our intention, perception, and adaptability to environmental demands around us. Your heart literally creates the reality you are in. Harvard and the HeartMath Institute have shown that if new information causes you stress and you let negative emotions, i.e. anxiety or anger, disconnect you from your heart, this will impact your heart rhythm and produce wear and tear in your physiological body's health. This impacts your ability to cope with stress, think clearly, adapt to situations, and problem solve efficiently. For example, if your boss at work gives you more late work in the day, or you have conflict with your partner, this can cause your heartbeat to lose coherence and harmony with itself. The heart has a memory and time again, I have seen with clients how much trauma the heart holds. When clients come to me experiencing stress, fear, anxiety, I support them in restoring brain-heart coherence through meditation, breath, and undoing stress-inducing neural patterns and beliefs. When we invite in positive emotions, for example, gratitude and love, this allows our heart and physiology to come into harmony. It will bring your nervous system, mind, cardiovascular system, body, and respiratory system, spirit, into coherence and synchronize with nature. This is why positive emotions feel so good. Essentially, I'm supporting you to open and expand your heart's electromagnetic field to help you feel safe again in a scary world, to trust yourself and others and lead life from your heart.
Wow.
And I feel like that really just touches on what you were speaking to and the triggers and anger that can come in from the most well-intentioned people. But it doesn't matter whether we're well-intentioned, because whether if it's coming from anger, we're not in coherence with our true self, with our nature, to see clearly, right? To problem solve efficiently. And it's like, wow, this heart that we've been gifted, like it is sacred, it is a portal, you know, it's to be honored.
It has every single answer you will ever need for any single question you will ever have in your life. And following it like a compass, like allowing it to guide your life through rather than from the mind, and seeing what type of life you can create from that. And like what you shared, so intricate, and so like you've obviously studied the heart quite a lot in order to be able to write that. And it's a time and an era of us reconnecting back to it, because ultimately it's our birthright. It's our birthright to be happy. I remember I heard that once in a time when I was very unhappy and I didn't believe it. And it's like, how crazy is it that our human collective psyche believe that we deserve to suffer, when ultimately the children of the world are the greatest teachers, and the children that are coming through now are going to be bringing a whole new, like new inventions, new innovations, new ways of being that is going to guide us in the future. So we just need to do as much as we can right now to hand over a planet to them that will allow them to be happy and thrive. But just the child within ourselves, like our inner child, the one that lights up when you see a dog walking past you, or has your connect, like whatever connection you have to nature, or when you're at the ocean, or whenever you feel peaceful, and whenever you feel happy and joyful and laughing, it's like it's that inner child part of us. And ultimately we deserve to be happy, and that gateway and pathway is through connecting to the heart and listening to it and trusting it, even when it scares you, because it has the answers, and it may not always make logical sense what it's telling you to do. It knows.
And, there's a quote out there, which is, the longest journey a human may take is the 30 centimeters from their head to their heart. And, again, it's like all these words and quotes I really learned, we don't really know what they mean until we've lived it. We've had the experience of years to live that. And I really deeply understand that journey of 30 centimeters is a long journey into the depths of our darkness, into the shadows, into letting go of so much that we thought was real. And, I've even added on more recently, you mentioned the sexuality again. It's not just the head to the heart, it's the head to the heart to the sex. The center of, it's like 30 centimeters and another 30. Because as you say, it's like this was great. This, I've even done the tests. It's like my alpha brain state's really good, and it's, it's very well performing. I did biofeedback, and then coming down to the heart, it's like, the love, and to let go of heartbreak and all the bits. And as you're kind of saying, right, our connection to nature, if we want to be an activist and even environmentalist or not, it's like that is the journey we need to take, because otherwise we're so caught. This is the message to any sensitive beings right now. It's like, the people that I see who have the most empathy, sensitivity in their nervous system emotionally, feel so much pain that it's so easy to get caught up in the pain, or advocating for change in the world, activism, when you care so much about, mental health or the environment, that the message is, if that's causing you suffering, you need to stop. Yeah. You need to step back for a moment. You need to come back to your joy. Come back to what brings you happiness, because that's not serving you. It's not serving your initiative. It's not serving the people to be spreading more pain. Like, it's to really feel all that pain, to cry it through, to be with it, to sit with it, to allow yourself to be held by that. It's a gift to be sensitive. It's a gift to feel so much. Some of us consider it as a curse, but it's a gift, because when we actually allow ourselves to feel it and see it and go all the way through it, as you said earlier in this conversation, we can only go to the depths we've gone. And the deeper we felt our depression, the deeper we felt our sadness, the higher, the more range we can experience our joy, the more range we can experience our peace. And in that journey beyond the heart to the sex, I had such an expanded heart and all this love, but I kept getting hurt. I kept getting hurt. And my greatest initiation into my manhood has actually been my sexuality journey. Out of all the rites of passage I've done in the bush and all the men's work, it's actually been the sexuality, because there I found the power that's given to me in my phallus, in my seed, in all the shame and guilt there is of being a man, having a penis, all this, right? And it's the same for a woman. The womb, the yoni, like our power has been given to us in these bodies that were designed for creation, for procreation, right? It's all there. And when that power breathes up and comes through an open, clear heart, so it's not just rampant sexual energy, you know? And then the head can, you know, quieten down the nervous system and integrate with that. Coherence. There's power, there's sovereignty, there's freedom, there's peace, there's joy, there's the place to act from and speak from in the world for whatever your cause or movement or initiative is. But it won't be distorted in anger and pain and projecting, and therefore getting more anger and pain and resistance back. Because as you said earlier, right, it's when as soon as I'm in right and wrong or fighting someone, it's game over. No one wins. Yeah. When there is healed, alchemized, moved through, and love and inspiration, it doesn't matter what that other person believes. It doesn't matter what. They will leave that, as you say. They may not admit it. They may not show it, but something changed for them. Or that person will come to the table. And there we have united polarity.
I'm so happy that this all ended up coming into this conversation. Because we're leaving a world that needs to do so much, like hustle, I don't like that word, but just constant doing and constant external, when ultimately it's like it's how we feel. And like pleasure and turn on, that isn't entirely always just sexual or within intimacy. It's like what turns you on. It can be like eating a really delicious meal and you're really enjoying every single texture and flavor of that sweet potato, or being in the sun and it's just like it's following the subtleties and the quietness of that, but feeling how you feel. It's like the connections, the friendships, the following that, and realizing that if that's the greatest gift you can offer the world, is being somebody that finds pleasure within everything. And there's a whole different topic that could be said on sexuality, on why that's been framed the way it has in our society, and the porn industry and everything like that. And without bringing that into it, it's just realizing the power that you are as a human being, and that you can explore within everything, and that there is an infinite amount of information out there. And even if it seems taboo, it's like there is a lot that can be looked into to bring you back to you. There is so many pathways, and each pathway is perfect to you. Like my pathway to spirituality came through nature to begin with. I was driving through the North American national parks, and it was like the Northern Lights, the largest tree in the world. All of these different things were activating something within me, which brought me into the movement that I've created and my path and my purpose. And it just activated everything and then called me into the path of connecting back to myself. But that could be for somebody else, like, yeah, anything at all. Find your thing and give yourself permission to feel good while doing it, because screw the old way of suffering, of pain, of separation, and be that person for yourself to say no to it and to open that which you want and be in integrity and live by your value system. If you believe that there shouldn't be plastic all through the ocean, it's like, bring your own bag to the shops. All these little actions, don't buy this thing if it doesn't align to your values, because the micro is the macro of everything. And you're going to not feel as good within yourself when you say yes to something when you should be saying no, when you know deeply within your heart that it isn't in alignment to yourself, and ultimately it's getting to know yourself. But yeah, I'm just glad that section came in, because it rarely does in conversations, and there is so much within that world. And it's ultimately about the human feeling good, like positive vibes. It's just words sometimes of like how that, I don't know, the Byron Bay era of just like, oh yeah, happy vibes, everything. It's like, no, actually choosing and being disciplined within yourself to have boundaries and choosing in every single little moment what you need to create the frequency in which you want to vibrate at, to be that for the world, and then notice how everything starts to match that and things will fall away from your life. And that is a massive part of it, is the letting go process and the death process, and things no longer matching, and then new things come, and it's just like only you can do it for you. And self-responsibility. This world needs to become self-responsible for us to be able to move forward. It's like the key thing is self-responsibility.
It's my number one value. It's the number one thing I instill with clients. I really resonate with that. And what you shared there as well is just giving permission to do what your purpose is, what you love, but feel good is. And I love that you said that, because I have a lot of friends who are passionate social change makers. Like that industry, there's like people that are in that, but I see them burn out. I see them like sacrificing themselves for some mission, and that is not embodied soul. That is not helping anything, because they haven't, again, it's the shadow work. It's what's driving that behavior, what's driving you to give more, what about the receiving, right? And all the pedestaling and awards and that whole world, right? So I love that you said that, and it's creating that it is possible. It is possible to not just do a job for money anymore, to have meaning. It is possible to have meaning and not do that to sacrifice yourself, but feel good. And I would love to bring this conversation to an end by asking you a question, which is your heart. Where is your heart? Like, what is it feeling? What is it in right now? Where is it guiding you? You know, what's next for you? What's being created through you? What's there? What's alive for you in your heart?
Before I answer that, I just want to also mention how like I got goosebumps, and by asking that question like directly to the heart, I just felt that in every cell of my body, and I was just like, oh, that is the heart that just sent like chemicals all through my body, and like far out, it's powerful. Thank you for asking that. So over the past 5 years, I just briefly mentioned how I had that activation in North America, which was this thing that was my North Star, and it was my compass point, called Earth Inspired. And what I launched it as isn't what it is now. I'm just about to relaunch the 2.0 version, which is encapsulated with absolutely everything that's on my soul, and a very simplified yet expansive way over a long-term period of time to create change for the world over 4 sections. So changing and signing petitions to get change happening within courts and changing laws, supporting organizations that are already active around the world by figuring out what they need people to do in a simplified way, being inspired and educated by the world and the complexity of planet Earth. And the most important thing is figuring out what you actually want for your future to be for planet Earth. So that is to have that as your trajectory point, knowing what you want to be the future, being inspired by others, but realizing that we all ultimately have a voice in creating that. So I'm just about to release that, which is really exciting and just feels so good. And then ultimately, what's as important as this is as important as the person that becomes whatever they're needing to do in their path, if they've got a mission or something on their hearts, to be able to activate it in the world, which is that remembering process. So facilitating that for people that are here for something more or want to be the embodiment of being the change for the world. So that's what's next. But ultimately, what's on my heart right now is looking after myself, prioritizing my health, prioritizing my thoughts, being aware of my thoughts, being aware of the amount of water I drink, and the quality of that water. And even something you mentioned before is like we are like a lot of people are constantly working and constantly in that game, when ultimately the best things that we can receive are when we go into nature or go to a yoga class or do what isn't required as working. So your contribution to the world is in everything you do. It's in the care that you put into the creation of your meal, that you also cooked extra servings of to serve with somebody else, and the conversations that you had within that sitting. It's within the amount that you nurture your friendships and how deeply you love that which is present in your life. It's how you give yourself that rest and you give yourself enough sleep, and it's all part of it. So it's who you be and prioritizing feeling good rather than going out and burning out and doing all the things to do all the things. And it's like allowing that to ease away and come back into understanding that the micro of everything is the macro of everything. And that is the new world that will be created through each individual.
And I love that, because you said do yoga, and yoga meaning union is just everything you just shared there. All I'm hearing is for you to be present and conscious in every moment and be in union in yoga with when you eat, with every activity you do in life. And that's the real yoga. It wasn't the mat practice, it was about that, and the mat practice training people's consciousness for that. And I'm just hearing, that is your aspiration, intention for living. And it's beautiful. And you said something earlier about for the children, the vision, and I really just got connected to, I spoke to a man the other day, and he's really like, community is about being embedded, about the vision for the children. And then if we bring that back one level, it is for the children, but it's also for our inner child. And that inner child is the children. That is the child inside of me. And if we really stay innocent, that childlike innocence, and we live from that and through that, that is enacting the vision for the children. So I just wanted to presence that and thank you for just such a beautiful exploration and sharing your heart and your journey, like everything you've done and been through in your journey to get to this point in time, and to have the perspective you have, to be creating and in the world the projects you are.
Thank you so much. And likewise, thank you for creating this space, this container, to have also prove and show that there is so much diversity within the heart and connecting back to it. So allowing people to explore that as well and meet themselves in so many different aspects of their lives that they may not have realized were all interconnected. And it's a beautiful long journey that we're all on to do whatever we're here to do. But how beautiful is it, especially when you meet other people that are doing it in their own unique way. And it's all about collaboration, and it's all about supporting one another and wanting other people to succeed as much as you want yourself to succeed. And honored. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I'll drop your details, all your different things in the bio and everything. But if there was a call to action that you had for anyone that you wanted to share at the end here, whether to check you out on different things or just personal something for their life, what would your call to action be?
All that came through my head was be the change you want to see in the world. Underlying of be. Be it, explore it, understand it for yourself. And also, if you resonate with me, then follow along. There's a lot of epic stuff that's about to come out and come through, but just trust and relax. Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. That's great.